telling you right there. He causes grass to grow for the cattle. Sheep eat what? Grass. Cows are supposed to eat grass. Bulls, which is a cow, eats grass. That's cattle. Even goats, they eat grass. That's why they graze in the pasture. Right? They ain't supposed to be eating no damn corn. Not supposed to eat corn. Go ahead.
And herbs for the service of men.
He causes grass to grow. Read it again from the top. Call it.
Psalms 104 and 14. He causes the grass to grow for the cattle and herbs for the service of men.
He causes grass to grow for the cattle and herbs for the service of man. Herbs, you use them what? You season up your food with herbs. That's why it's called herbs and spices. You season your food with it, but also when you get sick, you use it to remedy you. The herbs. You use it to remedy you. But you also use it to spice up your food. But now the scriptures say he causes grass to go for cattle. But guess what? Now check this out. To show you that there's a science behind it. Now why is it you ever if you ever had a puppy, you had a puppy or a full-grown dog, or if you ever had a cat, when your dog or your cat gets sick, what do? What's the first thing they do automatically? Yeah, brother. Now, why is that? They automatically start eating grass, right? And they throw up. You'll see them, they throw up, and then what do? They go right to the grass, but they don't just eat any grass. If you look at them, they're picky. They're sniffing around for a certain type of grass. Now, I was watching this one documentary by this guy called Edward G. Griffin, and he was speaking about how vitamin B17, there are certain types of grass that are rich in something called vitamin B17. And he was going into breaking down how vitamin B17, another name for it is called amygdalin, which means bitter almond. Vitamin B17 controls cancer in the body. Because our bodies are constantly under attack 24/7. That's why we got an immune system. So usually when you have a nutrient deficiency, you develop a condition. And the condition is usually always remedied by putting certain nutrients in your body, and then the condition stops. So he was breaking down how cats and dogs, they'll look for grass to eat when they're sick, but they look for a certain type of grass, and instinctively in them, they eat grass that's rich in vitamin B17. And then they become well again. And then they go back to eating whatever they was eating before. There's a reason for that. There's a reason why the scriptures say he causes grass to grow for the cattle to eat. The cows wouldn't be sick if they were still eating what they were supposed to have in their diet. And then us eating the cows or eating sheep or whatever, we wouldn't be sick from eating them. But you think about it, Jake out here and Ephraim, they got all these different medicines that they taking, but they taking also the medicines that are pumped into them cows and the steroids that goes into them, as well as the sheep too. It ain't just the cows that are being hit with chemicals and all that. The sheep are too. The chickens are too. Now you taking them chemicals in, then you have to go get chemicals from the doctor, because them chemicals that's in them animals is causing your body to react crazy now. So now you got to go to the doctor to give you chemicals to suppress the chemicals that you just ingested from them different animals that you ate, and from the fruits and vegetables that you bought from the store too. You got to go get chemicals to deal with those chemicals that's now in your system. So we're totally toxic. Go ahead.
It says that he may bring forth food out of the earth.
That he may bring forth food out of the earth. He causes grass to grow for the cattle and herbs for the service of man. So that food may grow out of the earth.
Yes, this is Genesis 1 and 29. And the Most High said, behold, I have given you every herb bearing seed.
Wait a minute. It said, the Most High said, I have given you every herb bearing seed. Whatever herbs that's out there all has a seed in it for you to replant the herb and bring another herb back. That's the cycle that the Lord created. So that shows you really that the plants are what? Male. Because the male has the seed. You have to open the earth and you plant your seed in the earth, then it grows out the earth. That's why when Adam looked at Eve, he called her fawn. In the Hebrew, when you go back in Genesis, the word that's there is Hawa, which basically farm or Mother Earth. Because the term husband means planter. When a woman says this is my husband, what she's basically just said is this is the man who plows my field and plants his seed in my field. That's what the word husband means. That's why we are the Most High's husband. That's a metaphor. So when a woman says this is my husband, she's literally telling you that this is the dude that's plowing her field. He's putting his seed in her field.
Go ahead, brother.
And Genesis 1:29. And the Most High said, behold, I have given you every herb bearing seed, which is upon the face of all the earth, and every tree, and every tree in the which is the fruit of a tree yielding seed.
Wait a minute. And every tree, which is a fruit bearing seed. So on an apple tree, the apples grow. You pluck the apple, eat the apple. You got the pit of the apple with seeds in it. Apple seeds. You are the pumpkin patch, you get a pumpkin. You want to make pumpkin pie or whatever. You got pumpkin seeds in it. Watermelon. You got watermelon seeds. And people will always make jokes about black people when it comes to watermelon. Watermelon is really good for you. Watermelon also stops cancer. Because watermelon triggers something in your body called glutathione, which aids in dissolving and getting rid of cancer. So people always making fun of black people with watermelon. Watermelon is good for you. And watermelon is also good for dissolving kidney stones, liver stones, and gallstones. Watermelon. Also what's used as a remedy is watermelon seed tea. There's people that take the watermelon seeds and actually make watermelon seed tea. And that's good for dissolving kidney, gall, and liver stones. Watermelon, which supposed to have seeds in it. What you call it? Grapes. Now grapes, they got seedless grapes. Grapes are supposed to have seeds in them. Now grapes have natural insulin in them. So grapes regulate your blood sugar level. You don't have to go and get that stuff injected in your body. You can eat grapes. You get green grapes or the red grapes or the black grapes. Grapes have insulin in them. So you can eat grapes and the grapes will regulate your blood sugar. They'll also stop you from having a heart attack too. Because what do they make wine out of? They've done studies in England over a 20-year period, and they've come to the conclusion that drinking a glass of wine every day, people over there in England die from less heart attacks than people in the United States. Just from drinking a glass of wine every day. Where do you get wine from? Grapes. So that's another effect of just what? Grapes. Read that again in Genesis, brother.
Genesis 1:29. And the Most High said, behold, I have given you every herb bearing seed, which is upon the face of all the earth, and every tree in the which is the fruit of a tree yielding seed. To you it shall be for meat.
For us it shall be for what? For meat. Meaning it's for us to eat. Right? The fruit it's for us to eat. So they know that because years ago, before any of us were born, the number one method to stop a cold or a cough or most diseases was, they said, if you have a cold, you got to feed a cold. So when you put certain nutrients in your body, your immune system acts up and creates antibiotics and knocks it right out of there. But the problem is, the food has no more nutrients in it. So food used to be nutrient dense before. It's not anymore because it's genetically modified now. The food that we eat is genetically modified. Hold on, let this brother finish. All right, go ahead.
I got a quick precept on that.
Yeah.
Said. This is Exodus 23:10. In 6 years thou shalt sow thy land, and shalt gather in the fruits thereof.
6 years you shall sow the land and gather in the fruits thereof. This is 6 years. Go ahead.
But the 7th year thou shalt let it rest and lie still.
Right. On the 7th year, that plot of land, you're supposed to leave it alone and plant somewhere else. And give that land that year so it can rejuvenate itself. So you don't plant nothing there on the 7th year. And you plant somewhere else. Go ahead.
But the 7th year thou shalt let it rest and lie still, that the poor of thy people may eat, and what they leave the beasts of the field shall eat.
Right. They said that the poor of thy people may eat, and that the beasts of the field may eat. That's why you have something called field mice. When them watermelons and cantaloupes and all that start to go bad, there's so many of them out there, you're never going to pick. If you got a watermelon patch, you're never going to pick every watermelon in the watermelon patch. Some of them watermelons is there just for the field mice to eat. And whatever other animals are out there that eat that, they'll come up and they eat them. And then you also got what's called garter snakes. The garter snakes that eat the field mice. So that way you don't have an overpopulation of field mice. You got garter snake out there that'll eat the field mouse. So it's what? It's a ecosystem. It's a food chain. It's a balance. Go ahead.
In like manner, thou shalt deal with thy vineyard and with thy olive yard.
Whether you got a vineyard or you got an olive yard, that's how you're supposed to do it. 6 years, on the 7th year, you let it rest. You don't pick all the grapes out the grapevine. You don't take up all the olives, and you don't pick all the apples or oranges or plums or pears or watermelons or whatever. You leave some, so that was our welfare system. The poor of our people would go there, and they would get to pick off the trees and pick grapes and things, so they had something to eat. Because if you got 500 acres of land, you got all kind of crops. You're not going to eat all them crops. There's no way in hell you and your household and your servants are going to go through all that food. You're going to sell off a lot of it. You had certain Israelites that were masons, that built walls, built stairs, built foundations, built houses. You had carpenters, and they didn't necessarily. They weren't farmers. So what they would do, they would come to you and they would build up your fence, and you would say, okay, here's a certain amount of barley, here's a couple goats, here's a cow, here's some turtle doves or whatever, here's some lambs, here's some corn, here's some beets, carrots, as payment for him building your fence around your land to separate the different animals. Or you got a barn, you got a bunch of grains, you need a big ass barn built. The carpenter will come and build the barn, and you'll pay him with grains that are going to go in that barn. You'll give him some cattle, and then what he do, he take that home to his wife and his servants, and they cut it up and cook it, make cakes or make bread and all that stuff. That was the barter system. You didn't necessarily have to have cash money in your hand. I'm a farmer. I need like 7 big barns built to store the corn, to store the rye, to store the barley, So you build the barn for me, and I give you a portion of barley, corn, rice, wheat.